It's the first Frontier opening bell to start the new business and markets week in the month of June, Monday, the 16th. It's been a very tough weekend. Of course, we all know the latest across the Middle East with the crisis and the war between Iran and Israel now on the way entering its fourth day this Monday. So oil prices is in focus this morning. Crude oil prices up around 7% over the weekend. Now it's jumping by another roughly 5% early this morning, according to international news wires. So everyone's watching very closely the development in the Middle East as both Israel and Iran are targeting each other's oil and gas facilities in the latest face-off between two countries in the Middle East. What the consequences that will mean for oil prices, supply, and demand metrics in the market is everyone's guess. We haven't seen a runaway prices yet, but oil prices now been forecast to go around $80 a barrel. For countries exporting fuel oil, such as Nigeria, that will help you to balance its budget, which is based around $75 a barrel for 2025. Beyond oil, we've got a whole lot to deal with as well this week as far as interest rate decisions concerned. The U.S. Fed, the FOMC, will be deciding on interest rate this week, as well as the Bank of England. And of course, we're also keeping an eye on the Bank of Japan as well. That's outside the continent. Come back home to Nigeria. We're expecting Nigeria's May inflation data to be out today, Monday the 16th. Namibia's central bank is expected to decide on interest rate on the 18th, which is Wednesday. And of course, we're expecting Botswana's interest rate decision by the central bank on the 19th. So we've got our own central banks, at least two, to deal with this week. And of course, you have other economic data out of South Africa, Nigeria, and a few other countries on the continent. So keep that in mind just to brush up what we have on the radar for you. Let's just take a quick look at Friday markets, where the market finished on Friday. The Nigerian stock market, or general index, what you call the main index, was up around 115,429. The BRVM down by 0.25%. The Nairobi stock market down by 16 basis points, and the GSE fell sharply 1.76% to 95,000, below 96,000 on Friday. The Egyptian market usually headline the week for us on Sunday on the continent. So the Sunday market was sharply down 4.6%. And of course, you know why that's happened. The crisis in the Middle East, the latest escalation of tensions resulting in missiles firing across the borders of Iran and Israel, with casualties already going up on both sides. And now energy facilities of gas, oil, being hit and being further threatened by both warring parties. That's where we are. So the EGX 30 is now hanging around the end of 31,000. Let's see whether the reopening of the rest of the markets in the Middle East and the North African market will help the EGX claw back some gains when we get today's data out for you. So let's move on to East Africa and check in a couple of headlines with Kenya, the biggest economy within the region in the in the mix, with fuel prices now being revised by the Kenya's EPRA. That's the agency responsible for petroleum pricing. Super Petrol is now up for all our friends and everyone in Kenya by 2.69 Kenya shillings. Diesel is, however, down by 1.95, while kerosene is also down by 2.06. That's effective from Sunday. That's yesterday, June the 15th. And Uganda is among the 36 countries that the United States under President Trump has hit with a travel ban, which is now being expanded. And that's the latest. A couple of other countries, such as Nigeria, also going under a review, according to the White House. The Umeme, which is listed on the Uganda Stock Exchange, posted 167 million US dollars pre-tax loss for the full year 2024. That's quite a brutal earnings from this agro-allied company on the Uganda market. And the Kenya Airways, however, is saying goodbye to the chairman, Michael Joseph, who's been in the saddle for 9 years. The company will be announcing the replacement anytime soon. Let's cross to Nigeria, where Dangote Refinery says it's ready to supply petrol and diesel across the entire length and breadth of Nigeria effective the month of August. It's going to be the first time ever that a private enterprise producing petrol and other associated fuel in Nigeria will be supplying the entire country. So Dangote Refinery is asking everyone within the value chain to line up and pick up this petrol and bring into effect the true spirit of the equalization fund that was set up more than nearly 50 years ago by the Nigerian government. Today, we're sitting together with investors who will be listening to the Nigerian government officials, in particular the Debt Management Office and other financial advisors as to the plan for the government to go round two in terms of green bonds. That's about $280 million that the Nigerian government is looking to raise as part of the sustainability debt program of the country. In Senegal, the IMF is looking under the papers, under the books, under the table, everywhere to plug the $7 billion hole that is on the Senegalese fiscal balance sheet before the IMF could approve a further support for this West African economy. And the AFDB group says it's committed $184.1 million to Africa's largest solar power plant. And Russia's Yadran is talking with the Malian authorities to build a gold refinery that is the brainchild of the military junta in Bamako. And finally, in West Africa, Cote d'Ivoire is backing the cocoa waste to energy plant with about $33 million That's going to be in one of the region where cocoa is produced in Cote d'Ivoire, Africa's number one and the world's number one cocoa producer and exporter. Take you to Southern Africa. President Cyril Ramaphosa is attending the G7 or G20 meeting where President Trump is also attending. It will give an opportunity for President Ramaphosa to have a further talks with the U.S. president on how to warm up relations between Washington and Pretoria. In the meantime, President Cyril Ramaphosa is leading the new $18 billion HIV/AIDS Global Fund replenishment. That fund is expected to be beefed up, and Ramaphosa will be leading that effort. We expect him to speak to that at the G20 summit. The African Energy Chamber under NGIU and the rest of his team said they've launched a specialized advisory which will back African energy investment, putting the whole team of the AEC behind those who are doing energy investments on the African continent, supporting African enterprises, operators, investors who are doing business in hydrocarbon industry on the continent. And climate investment funds has approved about roughly 50 billion rand coal exit plan for South Africa, the continent's biggest coal producer and user. In Namibia, says he's posted 1.4 billion Namibian dollar in fish exports. That's for the month of April. An Absa Bank unit in Mozambique says his profit was up 14% to about 26 million euros for the full year 2024. That's some good numbers, isn't it? Let's go to North Africa. Of course, you saw how the latest crisis in the Middle East buffeted the Egyptian stock market on Sunday. We're looking at how the rest of the region will move today, in particular from between Algeria and Morocco, three of the main markets in that region that we cover on a daily basis. Gold prices, however, surged 3.7% amid escalating Middle East war. And Egypt says it signed financial closure deal with Norway's Scatec company for 1 gigawatt solar plant. That's ramping up on clean energy in the North Africa's biggest economy. And good news for Ghanaians, because the Moroccan authority has waived visa for Ghanaians who want to visit this iconic North African economy. And finally, the Attijari Wafa Bank of Morocco, listed on the Casablanca Stock Exchange, and BCP, which is another listed company, said they made 2025 Forbes Global 2000 biggest companies in the world list. Congratulations to you folks, and wish you all the best, making Africa proud. Those are your headlines as we get the new week started, 16th of June 2025. I am Bosin. I'll see you soon. Do have a great and profitable Monday.